Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm gonna do something a little bit controversial and rank 4th gen boy groups. And by that, I mean any boy group that debuted during the time period of 2018 till now. I'll be ranking them based on a variety of factors such as member composition, discography, choreography, and just personal bias. And in order to make this video a little bit less negative and also just a lot less work for me, I'm only gonna be ranking my top 10. So if your favorite group isn't here, I just don't like them as much as the others on this list. But that's a story for another video. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to let me know what your favorite 4th gen boy groups are in the comment section below. And without further ado, let's get into number 10. Cravity is a pretty tough case because I'm always very back and forth with them. Instead of having any releases that I'm sort of just neutral on, each new comeback that they have is either absolutely amazing or absolutely awful in my eyes. They have songs that I'm absolutely in love with, such as Break All the Rules, I-O-I, Gas Pedal, and Verivery, but then they have songs such as Flame, My Turn, and Cloud9, which I absolutely despise. And in terms of their non-promoted B-sides, I feel basically the same way. I have, I think, literally half of their discography saved, and then the other half I would probably never listen to again. But when they have songs that are good, they're absolutely flawless. I think I looped Verivery for 5 hours during one session. They also always have really good choreography. I highly recommend checking out some of their dance practices if you haven't, because that's what gave them the number 10 spot over other groups that I like. The styling is also always amazing from them, but they're from Starship, so I wouldn't expect any less. I mean, their company has Sistar, Monsta X, and WJSN, who I don't think have looked bad a day in their lives, so that's to be expected. And in terms of the members, none of them have really caught my eye except for Jungmo, who's one of my ultimate biases of all time, but I do think they fit well together as a group, and they have a good amount of visual cohesion, if that makes sense. So yeah, everything about Cravity, besides their music, which is hit or miss, is generally good, and that's what made them number 10. And now, on to number 9. I-1, how do I break you out of Nugudum single-handedly, because you deserve it so much. I think the most charming thing about I-1 is definitely their member composition, because if you watch any interview or any variety content from them, each individual member has such a distinct and charming personality, because you'll look at a member like Chan, and then you'll see Kyungho, and then you'll see Eungi, and it doesn't seem like they should all be in the same group because they all seem so different, but somehow it just works. The way the members bounce their words off each other works so well, and even though I never really tried, I think I only watched a few interviews with them, somehow I easily know the names and faces of over half the members. Their discography is also generally above average, with a few songs here and there that I really love, and those are usually just their title tracks such as Count 1 2, No More X, and Son of Beast, and their B-sides are, well, they're okay. So yeah, really amazing member composition, really good title tracks, kind of meh B-sides, and pretty good styling, but nothing really to write home about. Moving on. This is where half the people watching are going, oh, finally somebody that I know. And when it comes to Stray Kids, the reason that I like them so much is that they have a very strong sense of identity. You look at their musical catalog and their music videos, and even though they've always experimented with different concepts in their B-sides, through their title tracks they've stayed very consistent with their boisterous, noisy, in-your-face image. Stray Kids know who they are, and even though the amount of people who dislike them and their music increases every single day, they never deviate from the image that they've carved out for themselves. And I feel like that's something that's really respectable. Now, regarding their image in a different kind of way, honestly, their styling is a little bit questionable at times, but what else are you gonna expect from JYP? How they redeem themselves from that though is how every single member of Stray Kids seems very essential to their team. You look at any of the individual members and it seems like any of the 8 fill a role that the other 7 couldn't. And I think that's a pretty rare quality from a group that's pretty big. In terms of their music, I really like about 30 of their songs, and then the rest I'm pretty meh about, but when referring to their music as a whole, I generally view it in a pretty positive light, and I hope they never change from the group they are now because I really like who they are currently.
Oh, bye, bye, bye.
Despite only being a group for less than 2 years, WayV have already become one of the most unique 4th gen boy groups in existence. Taking on a completely different image each time they release new music, WayV have become a group somewhat akin to Shinee in the fact that they seem to be somewhat of a concept chameleon. They explored a sort of cosmic image with their debut Twilight, and then with All or Nothing they went to the typical 4th gen boy group noise route, and with Bye 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 they ventured into the bright and sunny summer concepts. And even though I didn't like All or Nothing, I think they fit each concept really well. Versatility isn't something that every group needs to explore, but when you're able to execute everything that you do with such precision, for a group like WeI, I think it really works. And because WeI have this factor of you don't really know what they're gonna do next, when it's announced that they're releasing new music, I get a lot more excited than I would for other groups that I know. One thing that I really enjoy about the members of WeI is that they have very unique vocal colors. Even if you don't know the members' names, faces, or voices, when you're listening to their music, you can tell when they switch from one member to another, and I think it makes listening to their music a lot more interesting. Overall, just a really solid group, and if you're sort of bored with the way that 4th Gen is going right now, I would highly recommend checking out WeI. The boys' biggest strength in my mind is that they have some of, if not the most consistently good Korean title tracks in the entirety of 4th Gen. And yes, I specified Korean because Breaking Dawn and Tattoo are... no comment. But if we're just talking Korean, I don't know if we know any other 4th Gen boy groups who create title tracks that are as catchy, memorable, or as unique as the boys. While the actual visual concepts that they use in their music videos aren't really anything to write home about, the vocal hooks and instrumentals that they use get stuck in your head so easily, and each new era adds a new catalog of sounds into the boys' track record that make them a group that really do stand out from the crowd. I would also argue that they have the best styling out of 4th Gen boy groups, and maybe just 4th Gen in general, and honestly, maybe some of the best of all time. Whoever styles them really does know how to make them look good. Sadly though, out of their entire discography, I can only pick out maybe 10 to 15 B-sides that I go back to regularly, and I would absolutely label the boys as more of a title track group. I would also say that the member composition of the boys is a little bit off. I mean, you look at a member like Channy, and then you look at, say, Juyeon, and there doesn't seem to be that much of like a visual cohesion there. And with the boys being such a large group, and they tend to push certain members more into the foreground than the others, a lot of them sort of get left in the background. And even though I was pretty actively trying to learn about the members, it took me about 2 months to memorize all of them. Thankfully though, the fact that their title tracks are so good and that their styling and choreography is always amazing, they landed the number 6 spot on my list. If you asked me what 4th Gen boy group besides my number 1 pick has the potential to be the next big thing in K-pop, I would say it's P1 Harmony. With the group going semi-viral on platforms such as Twitter and TikTok every other day, I think it's just a matter of time until P1 Harmony really make it big with the international audience. The members have such good chemistry with each other and just in general, so it's really hard not to get captivated with them. And considering their music isn't anything to laugh at either, they have so much untapped potential that's just waiting to explode. I'm genuinely surprised it hasn't happened yet, but they're definitely on the way there, and as soon as the hundreds of thousands of TikTok stans who like clips of Kiho just being funny realize that they actually have really good music too, they're definitely gonna be super famous. Oh, to live in a reality where Verivery aren't under Jellyfish Entertainment. Verivery are definitely one of the most undiscovered groups in K-pop because they have a really solid discography, but nobody really talks about them. Despite having a few sore spots in their discography such as Trigger, GBTB, or the Thunder album, not to make a pun, but generally Verivery have very solid releases, with the title tracks and B-sides alike both being above average. They also have one of the most interesting concepts in 4th Gen, and even though I haven't paid enough attention to really grasp it, you can tell there's this overarching story throughout all of their music videos, and you can always count on their title tracks to always have music videos that are never glorified dance practices. They also have some of the most talented members in the entire industry, with their vocalists Khyun and Yeonho being some of the most consistent live singers I've ever seen, and their rappers Hoyoung and Donghyun having some of the most underrated flows in the entirety of 4th Gen. I also really enjoy how the members are so involved in the creative process of their music, and you rarely see a release from them where at least one member doesn't have some sort of composing credits on one of the songs. Verivery are one of the most well-rounded groups in K-pop, and I really do hope that they reap the rewards of their hard work soon. No matter which way I look at it, Ateez are just that group, you know? Like, they never fail to catch my attention, and it always seems like they're doing something newer and bigger to one-up themselves. Somehow their stage presence gets exponentially better each time they have a comeback, and they're always putting out new content to constantly solidify their fanbase. I know I've been pretty vocal in the past about how I don't like a handful of their title tracks, and I still do stand by that, but they generally have pretty decent B-sides, and the title tracks that I do like, I'm absolutely head over heels for. Out of all of the 4th Gen boy groups, Ateez definitely have to be one of them that work the hardest, and it's so nice to see how nowadays they're always harvesting the fruit of their labor. Ateez also have some of my all-time top biases such as Hongjoong, Yeosung, and Songhwa, but all of them are really charming and I really love the sort of family bond that they seem to share. They also have some of the craziest choreographies out there, and kudos to you if you've ever learned an Ateez dance, because I know I definitely haven't. And everything about Ateez is just impressive. Like, they were able to have 3 full comebacks this year, go on Kingdom, go on Immortal Songs multiple times, and then put out a bunch of additional content as well. I don't know how they do it, and honestly they might need a break, but they're putting out stuff for us to enjoy, so I'm gonna enjoy it while I can. And yeah, I just really like Ateez. I saw a tweet the other day that said if K-pop stans stan groups solely on the musical quality, CIX would be one of the most popular groups right now, and I completely agree. Do I somewhat dislike their most popular title track from last year? Yeah, but the rest of their discography is absolutely amazing. I think CIX have been sort of a victim of unfortunate timing, with some of their comebacks being overshadowed because they were released at the same time of other more popular groups, with some of their promotions having to be cut short and some of their comebacks being delayed due to injuries. These two factors have caused CIX to not gain as much popularity as they should have, and it really is a shame because they have some of the most interesting music in both their title tracks and their B-sides. They're able to make their songs really stand out, with Sunghoon being one of the strongest power vocals in 4th gen, and the group as a whole has a really nice vocal tone, and even though the members don't sound too different from each other, they all sound really nice. And they bring this nostalgic sound to K-pop that they shine in so well each time they come back, which is a type of sound that you don't really hear anywhere else. So overall, just stan CIX for a better life.
Let's get it, know that stop chilling, oh my god.
Raise your hand if you were surprised. Why do I not see any hands raised? Oh yeah, it's because this entire channel is centered around MCND and I never shut up about them. So let's talk about them some more. If I had to sum up MCND in one word, it would be confident. Even with their pre-debut single Top Gang, you can tell that they entered the idol industry with a goal of letting people know who they are through their music, and they have nailed it each time that they've had a comeback. And you watch any of their behind the scene clips and you can tell how much effort they put into everything that they do and just the raw desire that they have for their hard work to pay off. I mean, these guys have been training together for years, anywhere from 5 years, and even the shortest members training period was 2.5 years long. And since they waited so long to debut, once they finally did, they came out with a fire that I have never seen before from any group. Each and every performance that they do has so much energy and emotion, and their choreographies are nothing to laugh at, some of the absolute hardest in the entirety of K-pop. So you can imagine the amount of energy that they expend during the months that go into preparing and promoting a comeback. And considering the amount of time that they trained together, and they actually knew that they were going to debut together for quite a while too, you can really see the deep-rooted bonds that they have with each other. Just like any other group, they absolutely play it up a little bit for the camera, but they definitely do share some sort of brotherly bond. And you can even see this in the performances by the way they sort of uplift each other. Their hard-hitting vocals and fast-paced raps play off each other very well, and they have this sort of united stage presence that draws me to them more than any other group I've ever known. I also love their discography so much, some of the most intense and energy-pumping title tracks in existence, and their B-sides too have so much character and personality where I could loop them for hours on end. I highly recommend B-sides such as Bumpin', Catwaltz, or Player, and the members too just exude charisma. They're all sort of young and awkward, which makes them sort of endearing and captivating, and for me, since I'm also a similar age to them, it makes them sort of relatable. So yeah, I really just wish the best for them, and if you haven't already, please check them out. And that concludes this video. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, consider leaving a thumbs up, and if you want to see more from me, consider subscribing. This video was so much fun to make, so I really hope you enjoyed watching it, and without further ado, I'll see you all next time.